Okay, this is 5 minutes on S.P.Q.R, an abbreviation, an initialism, which is found all over the ancient world, but you will also find it in the modern world as well. And in 5 minutes, I'll try and explain a bit about that. So, S.P.Q.R, Senatus Populus Quae Romanos, the Senate and the people of Rome. That's what it stands for, the Senate and the people of Rome. You find it in monuments from certainly the Republican era into the imperial era. I'm not sure about the monarchic era. I would have to look that up, but certainly in the Republic, certainly in the Empire, S.P.Q.R on statues, monuments, coins, in literature, legal documents, political speeches such as those of Cicero. It's everywhere. So it clearly was a big deal in the ancient world, but yeah, we know what it means, but what does it mean? As a phrase, central to it is the Senate and the people being mentioned in the same breath, suggesting they're connected, that they are pursuing something together. There's a togetherness in it. So it's not the Senate off doing something that the people don't approve of, nor is it something the people doing something the Senate don't approve of. It's a term of solidarity, I guess, at its essence. And it's a persistent reminder that these two groups rely on one another. Without the Senate, the people would not be governed, and possibly that could be catastrophic. It certainly would be anarchic. But without the people, there is no Senate, full stop. However, it's a very kind of naive and idealistic view, because as is true of any phraseology in politics, it can be abused. We all know of politicians who have claimed to be working on behalf of the people they represent whilst doing something that's actually in direct opposition to those people. So we can't really rely on this phrase always meaning what it intends to mean. Politicians will abuse it. And it would be very easy to say that the Senate is going to do this for the Senate and the people of Rome. It sounds very grand, it sounds very inclusive, but we already know that the Senate didn't really, it certainly didn't always factor in what was good for the mass of people. When it talks about the people of Rome, we do wonder which people exactly. The nobiles, the equites, the plebeians, all of them, none of them, some of them. Anyway, all democracies are very proud of the fact that their power comes from the people, even though in the most corrupt democracies in the world, that is not true. But Rome was proud of its republic. It was proud of the fact that the Senate derived its power from the people. And we see this kind of, it's fetishized in the modern world, where politicians often talk about working for the best of the people. The people is a big idea, without specifying which people, without saying who exactly is going to benefit from a particular measure that they intend to introduce. But this idea of the people is central to most democracies. You have a look at the United States, of the people, for the people, by the people. And on the surface, it's a truth that a democracy depends upon its people to function. But at its worst, it is it's a covering for a government to say that they're doing something for the people, when that is not always the case. Anyway, that in the ancient world is as much as you need to know for higher classics. However, it is worth noting that Mussolini, in the 1920s, 1930s, he began a program of reintroducing S.P.Q.R into public constructions in Italy, And indeed, if you go to Rome today, one of the things which it seems odd to an outsider, but you will find tourists taking photographs of manhole covers because they're still inscribed with S.P.Q.R. And Mussolini, like most dictators, was trying to recreate a past that was somehow more glorious. The present, things the way they are, the world has fallen into, it's fallen upon bad times. So we need to go back to a better time. And for Mussolini, S.P.Q.R. was a symbol of a time when Italy was important and it ran things. And he wanted to promote a new Roman Empire, hence S.P.Q.R. everywhere. By the way, you will have no doubt already made the connection between this and Donald Trump's attempt to make America great again, harking back to the past, to a time, a non-specific time in the case of Donald Trump, when things were better. I'm not being malign here in saying that it's just Donald Trump, but it is the case of politicians the world over. When they want to make things better, very often they hark to the past, and it's seldom true. Anyway, S.P.Q.R. is still being used by the city of Rome in its municipal buildings as a symbol of the togetherness of its politicians and its people, for good or bad. And finally, and this is a recent development, white supremacist groups, I was going to say around the world, but I'm sorry, it tends to be mostly in the United States, have started to appropriate S.P.Q.R. as a symbol of white supremacy, which is bizarre if you consider, certainly if you look at the Roman Empire, the inclusivity of non-Romans, non-Italians into the empire, the notion that this would become a symbol for white people, white Americans, in some cases white Europeans. It's just bizarre. But I think what they're doing is they're harking to the military conquests of the Roman Empire and somehow identifying that with their quest as white supremacists. They're quite wrong, obviously. And they've appropriated something with a very superficial understanding of what it is and what the Roman Empire was. Nonetheless, it is, the genie is out of the bottle, so to speak. So S.P.Q.R. now has this very, very small, but very, very real association in the modern world. It's a great shame, and I'm sure that the people of Rome would take great issue with this ill-informed appropriation of the emblematic motto of their town. Here's your skinny. Take notes if you want. Well, you should take notes. Take more than you need. And if you have any questions, see me in class.